Oh my gosh, you guys, there is something so ridiculously addictive about smoked Gouda. The creamy texture, the rich, meaty flavor, and the way it just melts in your mouth. The good news is making it at home is way easier than you think. So in this video, I'm going to show you the entire process from making the cheese to smoking and aging it so that you too can create your own ridiculously delicious smoked Gouda at home. Now, because cheese making can feel complicated, I can't even say the word complicated to beginners, I've developed a framework that breaks it down into 5 stages to make it more manageable. And I call this the cream method. For stage 1, which is the C of cream, the C stands for culturing or conditioning the milk. It's the very first thing you do. So for this cheese, it means bringing the milk up to the starting temp, which in this case is 90 degrees. I used about 4.5 gallons from this morning's pot, and then another 4 gallons of refrigerated milk. So this is an 8-gallon pot of milk. So bring it right up to about 90 degrees, and then that's the point at which you add the culture.
My dog bit the pig, so I need to go treat the wound.
Was there actually blood?
Yeah, it was an actual cut.
Seriously?
I told you this! There was no response. I'm like, do we have something to treat it with?
You can add the culture earlier before the milk completely comes to temp if you would like. The benefit of this is that as the milk heats up, the good bacteria start working, which helps to keep any bad bacteria that is in there in check.
Because there always is good bacteria and bad bacteria. You just want the good bacteria to win. So adding the culture a little bit earlier helps the good bacteria to, win.
Now, my favorite culture is clabber, which is just fermented raw milk. The benefit of using natural culture is that you don't have to rely on expensive, commercial-grade, freeze-dried cultures, and it allows you to cultivate the good bacteria that's already in your milk, the flavor of it, and the special essence of the milk that you are using. So this cheese comes all from our own milk. There's not other things that are being added to it aside from the rennet and salt. I use about 3 tablespoons of clabber per gallon of milk. So for this 8-gallon pot, that's 1.5 cups of clabber. Oh, and this recipe is in the Milkslinger recipe collection where I have all the recipes. If you want to follow along with the written recipe, the link is below. Now, once we have stirred in the culture, it is time to move to stage 2 of the cream method, which is the R, and the R stands for rennet. Per gallon with unpasteurized milk, it's 1/8 teaspoon of rennet. Because I'm not quite at 8 gallons, that's a scant teaspoon. Dilute the rennet with a little bit of water and then just stir it into the milk. You want to stir it for only 30 to 45 seconds so that the milk does not begin to set up, and then you let it rest for 45 minutes to do its thing. Yeah, that's much better. So now we are about 1 hour, 1 active hour into the make process of this Gouda, and we are arriving at stage 3. The E in cream stands for expressing or extracting the moisture from the curds. And this step is generally the most hands-on, labor-intensive amount of work in the whole cheese making process. So if you're doing other things right now, stop doing them and focus on this. So first, we're gonna cut the curd into small pieces. Now, you can either cut them with your hands or you can cut them up with a knife. I often just use my fingers, but today I wanna make sure that the curds are just a little bit on the bigger side because bigger curds tends to give a more moist cheese. And I just feel like it. Sometimes I want to do it really fast, kind of slapdash, and other times I just wanna baby it a little bit. So today I'm feeling like babying it a little bit. Once the curds have rested and they're sinking beneath the whey, now it's time to start stirring them, breaking up any extra large curds that you find, making sure they're all kind of the same. You're kind of just letting the curds get their footing, getting them all situated, making sure you've met them all, know who they are, welcome them to the party. So now let these settle to the bottom. Now this next step is where we make it sweeter and less acidic. The way we do that is by taking away some of the whey that is in here, about 25%, and then replacing it with hot water. This is called washing the curds, and it makes them sweeter at the same time that it is cooking them because we are using hot water. The goal is to heat the curds to 101 degrees just with the hot water. Now if curds start rising to the surface and bubbling up and it becomes difficult to remove the whey, then you can put a colander in here, press it down, and then scoop from the inside of the colander. Now we are down to right around here, so that is about 25%. Gonna take this out for the moment. Now this water is supposed to be about 160 degrees. I don't actually measure it. I just use my hottest tap water, which is pretty darn hot in our kitchen. And then I top it off with boiling water. This is the same amount as the other bucket. So this is what goes in there. It should reach 101 degrees by the time all this water is gone. Before you add any hot water to the pot, make sure the curds are floating free and loose, because if they've been sitting for the past 5 minutes, they are starting to knit together in the bottom. And that means that when you pour the hot water on, that will cook what's at top and not cook the stuff at the bottom, and it will not distribute as smoothly and evenly as you would like. So just get it moving, and then take some water and just do a little bit at a time, especially in the beginning. And the good thing about using your hand is that you can feel where it's cool and where it's hot. So you know right away, oh, this section feels really warm, and down the bottom there's really cold patches. So you know you have to keep stirring until that feels the same the whole way through before you go and add more hot water. Now, once you've done that a couple times in small amounts, you can go ahead and start adding a little bit more each time. Just make sure you stir it well before you add the next one. You can see that the curds are floating much more easily now that there's more liquid in here. Okay, we've added about half of the hot water, only about 94 degrees, so we have a ways to go yet. I'm gonna add more of the hot water, but more quickly now. 2 degrees shy of being at temperature, and it's getting full. We have two options right now. We can remove a little bit more of this whey and then add more hot water to bring it up to temperature, or I can just turn the stove on and raise the temperature to 2 degrees. It has been washed properly with the equal amounts, so I know the lactose levels are correct. So what I'm gonna do, remove just a little bit of the whey because it's tricky to stir. And now, cook it on low just to raise it the last couple degrees. So while you're stirring, read a book. For all you people who have goat milk, I'm reading a book about goats. Not that we're getting any goats. All right, we're at 101. So the heat goes off. And now, stir the curds for about 15-20 minutes until they are done. How do you know that they're done? Well, they get drier. So let's look at them now so we can compare them later at the end. First of all, these are shiny, they look milky and soft. And if you squeeze them, I'm squeezing pretty hard. They are see how that's coming through there a little bit? When you do that, they have the indentation. They're crumbling apart fairly easily, but they still look wet inside. There's a glossiness to them right there. There's still a looseness to them. I also want to do the splat test and see if they bounce. So right here we go. It didn't splat, but it didn't like skitter. And if I taste it, it tastes wet on the inside and soft. It's just undercooked egg white. So you want all that to be gone, and you want them to be fairly dry and firm. So for the next 20 minutes, I'll just be sitting here stirring and reading my book. Right now the grains are starting to feel much more dry. It feels a little bit like juicy sand that's banging against my hands. They're not sticking to the bottom if I stop stirring for a little bit, or not sticking nearly as quickly. They're much more free floating. You can still see there's some bigger, juicier ones and then smaller ones through there. If you open it up, it is still wet. It still has that glossy look to it. So these are still not quite done. I'm stopping because look at how small these are. They feel dry, and I do not want to dry them out too much because I still want this to be a semi-moist cheese. Let's do the squeeze test again. They're not splooching out. Indentation. And they crumble apart easily. There's not that glossy, wet look in there. They're breaking. So that's a sign that they are done. Let's do the bounce test. That bounced. Tasting them, they're still soft on the inside, but it's not like a wet feeling. There's a tenderness to them. Someone's making noise. What? Hey, chaos, go out. Let these just sit here for 5 minutes to sink to the bottom, and then we'll pour off the whey and get these into the press. Soon it will be lunchtime. Move. I'm filming. You can eat that here. Sprinkle salt, and add a little bit of cream, and you have cottage cheese. So now we are at stage 4 of the cream method. This is the point of the process where we go from the curds being all individual and floating around to forming an actual wheel of cheese. And it involves 2 steps. First, we're gonna assemble the curds into the mold. I like to max out my mold, so I often overfill it at the start. And that's where these pieces of plastic come in handy. I use them to make a collar, and then I just put the cheesecloth down in like so. If I think the cheesecloth is gonna fall in when I'm putting the curds in here, I just do a little piece of magic with clothespins and clip them on so the cloth stays there. And then, friends, I just hit pause on the video and did not show you filling it. So what I did, I just took the massive curds at the bottom and just broke off a big piece, set it in, and then broke off in like 2 more pieces and set it into the mold. This cheese went down pretty quickly. I didn't even really need to use that collar. So now the other part is simply pressing it. This cheese gets pressed for 10 to 12 hours. Start with light pressure, flip it after 30 minutes, then flip it after an hour, then flip it after a couple hours. You just kind of feel your way along, flipping when you think it's time to, increasing the weight a little at a time. I'm starting with a little bit of water in my bucket and it will just increase slightly. This cheese tends to consolidate very well without a ton of pressure. I'll see it, boom, went right down. Needs more. The whole goal is to have the curds be well knitted. When you are pressing, you never want to see tons of milky whey come out. That means that you are pressing it too hard. You want the whey to be clear, the same color it is in the pot at this point. So it kind of matches that. It's only been a few minutes, but I'm gonna go ahead and flip it. Pretty misshapen and lumpy, setting it up to form better sooner. £7 pounds, 4 ounces. Whoa, it's gross. Okay, so now we're at the second part of the assembly process, or stage 4 of the cream method. This is where we brine the cheese. 4 hours per pound of cheese, so this is about 7 pounds, so I went about 28 hours brining it, more or less. It doesn't have to be exact. Once that's done, now we're ready for stage 5 of the cream method, which is maturing the cheese. The M stands for mature. Before we do this, this is a smoked Gouda, so we need to smoke the cheese. You do have 2 options. You can mature the cheese and begin to age it in the cave, and then at some point during that process, take it out and smoke it. However, what I like to do is smoke the cheese at the start, and then I wax it and let it age the whole way through. That way I'm not interrupting the aging process. It's just easier to smoke my cheeses. I just take a regular cookie rack, sets it on top of the grill so it doesn't get dirty grill stuff on it. And then the second thing is this, a simple tube smoker from Amazon, only costs a few dollars, and I fill it with pellets. It takes about 4 hours for this to burn the whole way through, which is about the right amount of time for smoking a wheel of cheese. So this is the cheese that I made with you guys, and this is a new one that I just made. This is the film cheese. It is going to start on the left. Okay, so that should keep it burning. Soon we should see smoke coming out around, and then I'll just keep checking to make sure it's going. It's pretty much out already. Haha. Let's do some more. You want to be doing this on a cold day because this is a cold smoke, so under 90 degrees. So today is like 40-ish and it's quite cold. Blow out the fire. All right, come back and check it in a little bit. You can tell that it's burning because the smoke is coming out all around. Yep, lots of smoke. I'm still getting like these black marks in there. So I'm not sure what that is, but I'm pretending nothing is happening. There's lots of little pinpricks. I don't know if those are air bubbles or gonna be holes. Right there's a little hole. So do it again. All right, my friends, it is time to taste this smoked Gouda. With a wax cheese, I just take a wet paper towel and wipe all over to pick up any mold from the cave, but it's generally totally clean. Does not take much at all. So there's your wax cheese. Super simple to clean, okay? And now to cut into it. Oh wait, I want to make this hot first, hang on. The knife slides through so much easier when it's hot. Yeah, see how smooth that goes through? Lovely. Oh, I smell the smoke already. Look at that. It's beautiful. This one is creamy. The smoke level is perfect. It's salty. This particular cheese tastes a little bit lighter flavored, like not quite as dense, and it's a little bit elasticy. It swoopies. See how that turns? So that's how you make a smoked Gouda. And then you just peel off this wax. It's gonna stain it a little bit here, but that's totally fine. You can take off those bits, but they're not gonna hurt you. This can be washed with hot soapy water and then just returned to the pot, which is what I do all the time, because otherwise it's expensive. Super smooth paste, pliable texture, really, really delicious cheese. I mean, just look at that. Super, super creamy, delicious. Oh my gosh. My verdict, this is a very light smoke. It could be more smoky. I have had trouble with some of my smoked cheeses getting a little bit of a bitter taste. This has none of that. If you are not a pretzel person, you are missing out, because smoked Gouda and pretzels are a match made in heaven. Yeah, that melts just beautifully. So this would go wonderfully in, well, grilled cheese, obviously, but also pastas, salads, burgers. So here's the little crunchy bits. Here's the melty bits. This cheese is very delicious. It's a kicker.